I'm going to call an audible right now, obviously, since we were going to talk about that programming language C3PL a little bit. You're going to see some of that in the config that we're going to create in Cisco Configuration Professional. But we're going to go forward with some lab work now, and I want to show you a couple of different firewall configs we can create with CCP, and we will see a little bit of these class maps and service policies that I was talking about, and then we're going to actually work with those in another lab when we do some of this from the command line. So let's dig in. We've got our router right here, and we've already discovered it. All is well there. And to start working on the firewall, as with anything that you are configuring, you are going to hit the configure button. Now I've already got security here showing, but remember, don't panic if you're looking around in CCP and you say, okay, I'm going to go into router and work on the firewall here, and you don't see it. You're probably just looking in the wrong section, and here it would be security with firewall and firewall components. So I'm going to click firewall, and usually that would take about 30 seconds to load, but I had already clicked it once right before I started the video, so just want to warn you that in the real world lab environment network, production network, you can have like a little 30-second delay, but it will say loading. So let's see, we've got create firewall. We're actually going to look at both of these options. And if you worked with Cisco Security Device Manager, which was on the last version of the exam and now is actually it's end of life, they don't support it any longer, a lot of this is actually going to look familiar. If you haven't seen it, don't worry about it, because it's all going to look familiar when we're done with this video. Now we've got a choice here between basic firewall and advanced firewall. Basic firewall's description is that the basic firewall wizard allows you to apply predefined rules to protect your private network from the most common attacks. Very important distinction here. The basic firewall wizard does not allow you to configure a DMZ. And you could see here this illustration is actually going to change because it's showing you inside and outside. Here's your router and here's your firewall. They're one and the same devices right now. Here's your outside interface. And we're going to go ahead and launch the basic firewall first. We're going to walk through a config with that, and then I will stop the recording. I'll do a write erase. We'll get rid of all that, and then go back and do an advanced firewall so you can see the difference. We'll also do some editing here as well. So let's go ahead and just click launch the selected task. There's some great review material in here as well for your exam. So it's just telling you it's going to allow you to secure your internet access router fast and easily. We're going to use predefined rules, and the deal is going from top to bottom. It applies default access rules to your inside, trusted, and outside, untrusted interfaces. Good vocabulary to have straight there. It's going to apply a default inspection rule to the outside interface, and it enables IP unicast reverse path forwarding on the outside interface. It's quite a mouthful. IP unicast reverse path forwarding. In case you haven't seen that before, and you probably haven't, we will discuss that quickly actually at the very beginning of the next video when we go into the advanced wizard. And I'll show you exactly what the command is for that and why we care. But we're going to go ahead and click next right now. And this is your basic firewall config. And all it's really asking you to do is select your outside untrusted interface. It keeps reminding you of that. And then your inside trusted interface. So on this particular one, what we're going to do is use fast 0/1 for the outside interface. And on this one, of course, you'll see immediately that 01 went gray here next to inside trusted interfaces. So you can't make an interface, your inside and your outside interface. It's not going to work. Interesting option here too. I want to call to your attention because you don't want to lock yourself out of Cisco Configuration Professional. To allow secure Cisco CP access from outside interfaces, you've got to click this box. And I want to show you what happens when you click next and you allow that. And it's going to ask you immediately, where are you going to be accessing Cisco Configuration Professional from? So it's really tying it down. It's not going to leave a lot of stuff open, a lot of addresses open, because of course that would defeat the purpose of having the firewall. So if you were going to need to go through the untrusted interface, the outside interface, to use Cisco Configuration Professional, you've got to say, well, any address or a network address. Here's a space for the IP address and then the mask. you can always type in the number for the mask over here, and the numeric mask, the longer version, of course, dotted decimal will show up right there. And you could also just say host address, and it's going to ask you for a single address. Okay, so let me pause this for just a moment. And we move forward. Sorry about that rattling sound you might have heard for a second. And let's go ahead and just go back from there, because we're going to uncheck this. But again, if you're going to need to get to Cisco Configuration Professional from outside your network, you're going to need to check that. Now, let's go ahead and click Next. And you're going to get a warning, and the warning is you cannot launch Cisco Configuration Professional from the following interfaces after the Firewall Wizard completes. And it lists the outside interface, Fast Ethernet 01. So you can't say you weren't warned several times. Now, we've already got our firewall configuration summary. And again, this is the basic wizard, so we're not really telling it anything. It's telling us, hey, here's what you're going to get. Let's go through this right now, because what I've done is the config that it's going to show us before we write that to the router. I've already copied that exact same one, and we're going to go through it on the whiteboard because I want you to see it there as well. It's a good review about why we're blocking some of this traffic and why we're allowing it. But quickly, let's look at what's being denied here. On our inside interface, our trusted interface, we are denying spoofing traffic, which is always a good idea. We're denying traffic sourced from broadcast or local loopback addresses, good idea. And we're permitting everything else. So as far as that inside interface goes, the basic wizard is just saying, hey, we're going to deny any traffic looks like it's coming from us. Inbound, because we don't want that, and we don't want any inbound traffic coming from any broadcast addresses or loopback addresses. But let's take a look then at the security policy that's being applied and what we're doing here on that outside interface, because there's a lot more going on there. It's applying an application security policy SDM low to the outbound direction. And we're going to have three choices there usually when we're using the advanced wizard, whether we want it to be low, medium, or high as far as application security goes. It's turning on that unicast reverse path forwarding check, so that must be important. And we've got an access rule to the inbound direction, and we are permitting IPsec tunnel traffic if necessary, GRE tunnel traffic for interfaces if necessary. We're permitting ICMP traffic. A lot of networks don't like to do that. Because they don't even want you to be able to ping them to even start gathering information like in a recon attack. Because you could send a ping sweep and sweep a number of IP addresses at one time, and if they're using one, it'll return a ping. So you don't always want to permit that ICMP traffic. You're permitting NTP traffic if necessary. And let's check out these last three lines. Two of them look awfully familiar. We're denying spoofing traffic. We're denying traffic source from broadcast, local loopback, and private addresses. Remember those? And we're denying all other traffic. So that looks a little odd to me. Why are we putting a deny all here when the two lines before it are also denying traffic? Why don't we just deny all the traffic to begin with and leave the spoofing traffic and the traffic source from broadcast addresses out? I bet we find that on the whiteboard. But let's keep going right now. We'll click Finish. And after a dramatic pause, because there's a lot of commands here, you can see. I mean, a lot of commands. So, again, don't try squinting to see all of these right now, too. I know it's small, but we'll see it on the whiteboard in a moment. And it's going to show you the entire config that it's going to draw, that it's going to deliver. There are two access lists, 100 and 101, a lot of IP inspect commands, and then some commands to actually put these on the interface. You can also, you'll always have the option to save the running config to the startup config as part of the delivery, and note that it says this operation can take several minutes. It even reminds you that the differences between the running config and the starting config are lost when the device is turned off. So it's reminding us of a lot of stuff here. Also, before I deliver it, you can save this to a file, and that's actually what I did, and it's a great idea. The default is going to be CCP command line interface CLI and then the date. You can name it whatever you want to, but that's actually a good way to keep it because you know immediately just by looking at the text file name when it was saved. And what I've done is copied this into the whiteboard, into OneNote, and we'll look at it there. But that is how you save it to the file. And let's go ahead and deliver it. You do have one more chance to cancel. And we see the little bar going back and forth. It wrote the 49 commands like that. And right now it's just copying. It's running a copy run start. And as soon as it's done with that, it will say OK. And that is it. You're going to get a message that says you have successfully configured Firewall on your router. And now we're dropped off at the Edit Firewall Policy /ACL window. And this is fantastic because, as I mentioned earlier, the starting config for any firewall, it's just a start for us. We're going to need to fine tune it. You're going to have somebody come to you and say, well, I can't run this application anymore, or I can't get to this website anymore, I can't do such and such anymore, and you're going to know that it's because of the firewall you just put in. I mean, that's just natural, right? Someone comes to you 10 minutes after you put a firewall in and can't do something, it's because you put the firewall in. Well, this is where you would edit it. And it's really handy because you can highlight any of the lines, and any time that you have anything that you can't see here, you can just grab the line right there and drag it over. But you can see, just be careful, because right now you're looking at originating traffic, etc., the traffic going this way, and what the ACL is. And if you click returning traffic, you get that numbered ACL, and you can see the number is going to change right here. There's 101 we were just on, and now 100. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you now wanted to deny 1111/32. And you want that to be at the top of the list. Well, what you can do is insert it, just highlight where you want it to go, because if you just put it at the bottom of this list, it wouldn't have any effect, right? Because permit any would be the fourth line, and that would permit everything, and then the fifth line would never be seen. So you've got quite a few options here. You've got add, edit, cut, copy, and paste. Paste will be enabled once you cut or copy something. So if you want to delete a line, you can just highlight it and then click cut. If you want to copy it, just highlight it and click copy. What we're going to do right now is use add, and it's going to give you the choice right there of insert before or insert after. So you can put this line exactly where you want it to be. And let's say that we're going to insert before. Then we get this handy window, add an extended rule entry. And it's going to have deny there by default, but you can change it to permit. And I really like this description. I love descriptions and remarks. So we're just going to, for a lab example, yes, I am that retentive. So the source host network, let's say that we're going to deny anything that is sourced from just that particular network number. And then you would pick a host name or IP address. We have the options to make it a network as well, or any address. So if we do the host name or IP address, it's just going to ask us to type that in. Destination any, even lets you change the protocol and service here, TCP, UDP, ICMP, IP, and there is your log match option. I like that. So we'll go ahead and check that, and then click OK, and you can see the line is put in there immediately. And there she is, 1111, destination any, service IP, log entry. That means we are logging it. We're not logging all the other entries. And we have the description there. And you'll notice all of a sudden you can't see the fifth line, but just scroll down a little bit and you will see that. So we're in pretty darn good shape right there. Let's go ahead and let's edit one. So make sure we're getting to the bottom of that one. There we go. So let's go ahead and edit. And if you want to edit one line, you could do it right there. And you've already got the information up there. Deny a network. It's got your wildcard mask. Remember that. It even tells you what the mask bits are. Mask bit 0 must match. Mask bit 1 don't care. So you can edit any line as well. Pretty good stuff there. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. We're going to come back here for a minute or two before we do the advanced one, but we're hitting 15 minutes, and this is as long as I like to go. So I will go ahead and stop the recording, and then I'll show you something very important about this particular window when we come back and pick up on the next vid. See you there.